Hi folks, Florida Man here. Today it's my pleasure to bring you a long diplomacy commentary that one of my patrons and I recorded on a game we played together. So a special thanks to King of Prussia for participating in this video with me. This video is part 1. Enjoy! King of Prussia, you and I just finished playing Saber and Musket Diplomacy, created by, I guess, Illuminati Joe is what he is currently calling himself.
Yep.
And I enjoyed it. I played as Qajar Iran. You played as
the Ottoman Empire.
And what were your first thoughts on seeing this map to the best of your recollection?
So my first thought was I don't want to be attacked by all of my neighbors. That would end poorly. And there were two major options I considered. I considered working primarily with Oman against Najd and then stabbing him and eating him. It looked like a pretty natural expansion pathway. I also considered primarily ignoring the south and working with Russia in a juggernaut, alternative juggernaut, but honestly, it would still be pretty similar, and we could probably roll over a lot of the map. But the first Russia was a little bit unresponsive, so we just agreed to DMZs of Wallachia and the Black Sea. And in the south, all my neighbors appeared friendly at first, so I talked to Oman about working together, and he seemed pretty okay with it. I proposed that he would get Boss and I would get ASM. And then I also proposed to Najd that I get Alj, he get BRY, and that we would DMZ Kuwait and the Persian Gulf. Now, I completely intended to stab Najd on that. And I also reached out to you as Persia, and we agreed to a bounce in Waz as an anti-Russia method, because I was talking to you about attacking Russia, but the viability of that for me was not really certain at the time, because there was not really an easy way to get you up there, at least from what I was looking at.
Yeah. On my end, to be honest, you as a power that started with 4 centers, and on this map, the only power that started with 4 centers, and also somebody who had a foothold in the Saudi Arabian region, I was thinking that I should consider making you my first target.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I take out Ottoman, then I can get that nice corner position that he has, and then I can expand into Russia. Then I'll have the entire top left area of this map.
Then you may as well be soloing.
Exactly. Like then I'm very safe, and I'm just figuring out who to pit against who to get to my solo. But although I think I did a good job of creating a coalition with Omani Empire and Najd, I ultimately I started to find I was having trouble in some of my other negotiations, and so my attention started to go elsewhere as the beginning stages went on.
Yeah.
So this was the first season of the game.
Yes.
And you and I were doing our...
Actually, quick correction. I think Sevastopol went to Kra, and this is the mistaken first map that the GM posted.
Oh, you're right. You're right. This is... Okay, so the mistakes are that Sevastopol went to Krakow and...
Krasnodar.
Oh, it's Krasnodar?
I think the next slide would be a correction. Because I remember him posting one.
Doubts about that.
I will check on my side.
Okay, it does have actually where everything correctly ended up. At least.
Okay, we can work with that.
Yeah. So Russia did go to Krasnodar.
Yep.
And you went to Bulgaria naturally. The guaranteed center for Ottoman remains the same in both versions of the map.
I'm not complaining.
No, I think that's a good thing. There should be some continuity. I like that this is like, this game takes place off the edge of the normal diplomacy map.
Yeah, it's like almost as if you could imagine that this is happening at the same time as a regular diplomacy game. But if it were, you'd have to imagine at some point France or Italy or Austria would come knocking.
That would be a very interesting sequence of events. But yes, unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. This game takes place in the 1800s instead of the 1900s.
Yes.
It's that name Saber and Musket diplomacy. So you're doing pretty well out of the first season, I think. You've got into a couple of juicy neutrals, and you are perhaps positioned to either get this other one near the Red Sea here, or to at least be a determining factor in who does get it.
Yeah.
Where were you in terms of diplomacy at this point?
So I don't think I paid enough attention in this season. I saw Naj violate the DMZ, and I knew he was an enemy immediately, but I didn't look at the subtle undertones of Oman's moves, because at the time, I thought that there was a decent chance that Oman and I would cooperate. I asked him for support into San, and when he didn't respond, that was when I pretty figured out that he was an enemy. But probably should have known that before then, given he moved into BOS in the first season and not Goa, where if he moved into Goa, he could have guaranteed San and hampered Naj's expansion. On the northern front, Russia was acting about as friendly as he could to me, so I was pretty confident there that we weren't going to have issues. And you and I did our balance as agreed, so I didn't think at this point that you were going to be an enemy.
Yeah, I was a little slippery. I think I was originally planning that I would move against you pretty soon from this point.
Yeah.
But in the east, I started to have some problems in that what I felt was a reasonable split of neutral centers that I proposed with Qing was something that Qing and I think Russia were not so willing to agree to. And I don't want to say that Qing's being greedy, but he was trying to seize everything he possibly could, and from his very secure corner position, he had the leverage to at least take a good shot at things that I did not want him to have, along with Russia.
Yep. And then as the season went on, during the builds, I think it was, there's the moves. Here we are.
Fall moves here.
Yeah. So this was, I think for both of us, this would probably be somewhat expected.
Yeah. This ended up working out okay for me, this idea of the division I had proposed with Qing, but in order to make it work, I had to suddenly commit everything east, because Qing wanted to work with me against India.
Yeah.
And that's why I tap India's position in Hyderabad, I think it is, and move out of ISF to Ban, move Tehran to ASH, and Qing supports me there because I'm now helping him. But now my interest in your side of the map is pretty much at an end. I don't want to participate in taking you down at all anymore. And
just keep our DMZs and go our separate ways.
Yeah, and if anything, I start thinking that maybe I should, if you start to lose ground, I might have to pay more attention to this side of the map again.
Yeah, so at this point for me, this is about what I expected to happen. Oman and Naj are obviously working together. I supported myself to hold, and I'm at this point, most of my planning is just going into what tactics I can use to be annoying to my opponents, because I'm outnumbered a lot. But the quirks of the Ottoman position in this game were quite nice, in that there's enough like fluidity in Arabia that I was, as you'll see later, I was able to kind of sneak around and be rather annoying, even when I wasn't in any type of dominant position.
Yes, I didn't know how much of that to attribute to quirks versus. Well, we'll discuss it when we get there.
Yeah.
So now we're at the builds phase.
Yes.
Yeah. Now we're at the builds phase. Russia built a couple new armies. You got
2 new fleets.
New fleets. I also got new armies. So, and perhaps most important are the Najd and Omani builds.
Yeah.
It's Najd, I think it's more obvious that his builds are not friendly to you, because he built an army in Riyadh and a fleet in Qatar.
Yeah.
And if he wanted to go against Omani, then probably Qatar needed to be an army.
Yeah. So my builds, I had Khan, which is double purpose. I was going to put it in Med, then convoy Bulgaria to Jerusalem. And then after that, that fleet was designated to go to ATL at the very bottom of the map, because Med and ATL are linked. And that would just be very annoying for Oman to deal with. And he couldn't really do anything to stop me. The Cairo fleet was just to hold Red Sea, because as long as I have Red Sea, Oman can't touch me at all. And the longer Oman can't touch me, the more tempted he's going to be to stab Naj.
That sounds like a good strategic play.
Thank you. Also, at this point, before we go to spring moves, Russia starts telling me that I'm going to be attacked by Persia pretty soon. So that was kind of a negative. And I was preparing for the inevitability that I might lose a home center this year. But I was hoping for the best. I was hoping that my Persian eastern neighbor would decide that obviously the Ottomans isn't a really realistic target for him to attack. So we'll see about that.
Well, certainly not at this point in the game, I would think. I mean, I'm so overly invested in the East. I'm sure that you'll probably be completely unscathed by me. Oh, wait.
Now, this move by Russia was sort of prearranged in that he was offering to help me, but also said that he wanted it to look like he was attacking me. I was kind of skeptical of the idea of let's make it look like I'm attacking you, because there's a quote that I just remembered you said, is that a fake attack on Austria often turns into a real attack on Austria. And I was not particularly fond of the idea, but I didn't really have a choice in the matter at this point. So I just kind of went with it.
I can feel that. I've been in that position before more than once. And yeah, when I have the leverage, I will always try to tell my allies that a fake stab is usually not very productive. It's all the leverage that you take relative to your ally is much more threatening relative to the diplomatic leverage that you might obtain over someone else who is expecting that you've now betrayed them.
Yeah.
Usually not, the juice is not worth the squeeze. And I am just shocked to look back and see how aggressive my moves were here. Normally, I'm a man of peace.
Of course. And then I believe this is where I give you a bunch of talk about how this is a bad idea for you and how you can't hold on. Like, the only thing you're going to get out of this is maybe Alb. And apart from that, you can't hold on to it. And there's just not much point to this whole thing, I think was the gist of it.
And this is why I was saying earlier, King, you're a very persuasive guy, and I'm like, there's a part of me that I'm always, greedily looking for the next supply center I can grab. But there's also a part of me that's just rational and is thinking, what he's saying has a point, and maybe I'll get that, and I'll get the one dot, and that will be the price, or that will be the only gain I get, and Nejd will become this massive Saudi Arabian empire. And then I'll be squeezed between him and Qing by the end. Although you can see this season I'm also stabbing Qing.
Chaos.
Sometimes I get overexcited and become an agent of chaos. I was relying on Russia to be my ally here in both fronts, and I figured if I have Russia, I have the element of surprise. I have certainly more armies between me and Russia on the Western Front to fight against you, and I figured Nejd is also attacking you, so This will be a very quick fight, and if I don't hurry up and participate, I will miss out on all the spoils, even though I also want to go after Qing. Now, this is a big mistake, but it's the kind of mistake that's sometimes hard to make when you're greedy. Hard not to make when you're greedy.
Yeah. And then other moves, the only other move I can mention is that Oman and I played a nice little guessing game in the Red Sea, and he won.
Oh, I see. Oh, because you were trying to decide if he was going to advance to Seg or try to dislodge Red Sea?
Yep. But he moved south to Goli instead of moving it to Yemen, so I was fine in the fall anyways, luckily. And then here we reconciled and decided to attack Russia. Unfortunately, you get stabbed immediately at the same time.
Oh, man. Yeah, I was aware that was happening. I was aware that Russia was about to stab me, most likely, which is why I started like really seriously talking to you and also really seriously talking to Ching about stabbing Russia's stab of me, which is why you see I move Ash to nuke here. I was expecting, hoping at least, for Ching to support me instead of Russia, and Ching did not. He did the reverse of that, but I couldn't even really blame him because I just stabbed Ching. Fortunately, unlike Ching, you kept your word and supported me into Armenia instead of supporting Russia into Waz.
I stabbed Russia here because this was an arrangement between me and him. He was going to help me fight you, and instead I took your side and supported you into Armenia and supported myself into Khan.
Yeah, if you hadn't done that, I think we would have seen a really big Russian empire very soon because
yeah,
he had a good plan. He was flipping on me with both of my enemies, and so I wouldn't have had a chance.
He also moved away from Bulgaria, which I was very happy to see because that meant that I was not going to be immediately knifed in the throat. And in the south, I supported myself into Jerusalem to make sure that he wouldn't bounce me using MCC because I wanted to. I knew I was inevitably going to lose Alj to Naj. Nothing I can do about that. So I wanted to make sure I was in the best position next year to try to make things annoying for him. And luckily, at the same time, this is where my little, because I had ever since Oman and Naj had teamed up with me, I had been messaging Oman periodically, being like, "Hey, if you keep waiting to stab Naj, he's going to build a bunch of armies, and then you're going to lose." And this is where it pays off because he starts fighting Naj, but the stab is just really ineffective. So I'm very happy to see that in the south.
Yeah, it's you can tell Najd sort of saw it coming because Najd moves San to ASM and is just doing whatever he needs to do to slow Omani's stab down while also still attacking you.
Yep.
I believe I was also trying to split them up myself around this time and trying to hamper the attack on you because you were my only ally at this point, although I think shortly I also pick up India as a comrade.
Yeah. After this whole mess.
Yeah.
After this, after I see what happens in Central Asia, I apologize to Russia, basically. And I just try not to go to war with him because that would end poorly for me, I think. And I'm just kind of preparing for the South at this point. It's my only concern. That's
good. It's important in diplomacy to have focus. Go after one front at a time. Ideally,
make sure to set a good example for all your viewers.
I was hoping you wouldn't notice that, but it was not a good move for me. I could have gotten so big, and instead I end up fairly stagnant here. It's just I hold about what I held at the beginning of the year, actually about what I held at the end of the first year. And so I just traded, actually I just lost Ash. I didn't gain anything new, really.
Yeah, I lost Ash and didn't gain anything, so we're both on the decline at this point. Luckily, you disbanded ARM, which made it very easy for me to decide that Russia was actually going to be my friend, or at least my non-aggression pact participant, as you'll see. And I disbanded Red Sea because that unit, I was talking with Oman, and that was one of the things he didn't quite like about my position was that I had a unit right there. So I got rid of that. Not much use to that point anyways.
And we see that Nejd built a southern army here as well. So reinforcing the current relationship between you and Oman, Nejd is showing hostility to Oman. So if Oman had wanted to turn on you, it's just very inconvenient.
Yeah.
And now we see what I would call the beginning of your comeback. I found it remarkable when I saw that you did get pretty small in this game. You were down to just basically a little more than home centers.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is what I would call the beginning of your comeback. And also, happily, this is a moment when Russia realizes that working with me in the East is not such a bad idea. I'm pointing out to him that Qing is actually quite large and powerful, and as I've mentioned before, greedy. Got to watch out for Qing. He'll gobble you up. And the fact is, Russia, that I'm telling him that Nuke and Ash and ATY, all these centers are really vulnerable to being captured by Qing if you ever leave them unguarded. So this front that you have with me, it's not going to give you anything that you'll be able to keep because Qing is just too strong. He's got this corner position. He has all these armies and multiple centers up there, so he's not going to leave that area vacant. You're never going to be secure if you leave Qing alive in that region.
Yeah. And at the same time, Russia converts Sevastopol to a fleet, which is a little bit stressful for me to see. But I'm just working on convincing him that you don't need to attack me right now because then Na is just going to take over and you're going to have to deal with a bigger problem. And that's about as much as I can say to Russia right now because I did just stab him and I cannot afford to fight him anymore.
Well, fortunately for you, I think Russia is doing a better job of following my advice than I am of only having one front. And so he is, you can see from his moves, he's very uninterested right now at this moment, at least, in fighting you. He's moving Crab back to PRK. He's moving basically everything against Qing. And India is also working with us against Qing. So we'll see how well that goes. Maybe we'll defeat Qing and crush him.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
And at the same time, I see that you take Alj from Najd. Najd is taking Alb from you. Yep. And Oman and Najd are sort of grappling in the south, although Oman gets distracted taking Boss, the neutral. He could have also taken San instead.
Yeah.
There's plenty of time for that.
There's no rush. Exactly. Take it nice and slow.
Exactly.
No bias here.
No, I'm in no hurry, buddy.
So then I lost Jerusalem and Alb in the fighting, but it's not a permanent loss. I set it up so that in the fall I'd be able to get at least one of them back and stay constant.
Yeah, and I see you. I think from the looks of this, you're going to get at least Jerusalem back.
I get Jerusalem back, and then I retreat Alj south into BRY because he didn't cover it. He couldn't cover it.
No. So you're net winning this year. Nejd is in trouble because of being attacked on both sides. So his forces are divided, and you're doing very well at being the main beneficiary of him being defeated slowly. Because Oman, I think, gains nothing here.
He gets the neutral center.
He gains nothing from that. No.
He doesn't weaken his enemy, and I don't know what he's going to do with an extra unit at this point, given his moves.
No, that might not help very much right now. He really just needs to go after San, and then he can see about taking AFI and Qatar.
Yep.
Sorry?
Go for it. I was going to let you explain the East.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, on the bright side, a significant success that Oman is having is helping us against Qing.
I don't get it. I don't know why he did this.
I mean, I would say that this is one of those times when just trying to be likable and having a good rapport with people really comes in handy because I just asked him. I didn't have like a strong motivation for him to do it, and I asked him for a favor, and he was okay with it. Once I defeat Qing, I'll eventually be able to come west and help Oman against you and Najd, or whoever he happens to be fighting at the time.
And future's a funny thing.
Yeah, he's investing in the relationship, which we'll see if that pays off. At the same time, although I am supporting India successfully retaking Hyderabad from Qing, the other successes are kind of mixed. The situation isn't an entirely perfect one. Qing gets Kabul from me here. So personally, I am actually still losing ground. Although my alliance is perhaps, doing relatively well at positioning ourselves for the best attack on Qing that we can manage.
You are meeting expectations.
You could say that.
That's about as good as it gets, I think.
Well,
so then Kabul destroyed, and I'm going to retreat south. Pretty sure I went to BRY here.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I did. It was the fall, so I would have had to or disbanded.
Yeah, you went to BRY. Why? We can see it now. And you I
don't get builds.
Oh, okay. I also did not get builds.
Oman got to build an army in south, and I think Qing built an army out in the east, maybe? Yeah.
He built an army in hot.
Yep.
Because he didn't really have any place to build fleets anyway. Which is probably kind of it. Well, it's not an issue with this map because of the fact that
you can convert armies to fleets and vice versa.
He introduced that, or he uses that transform move, which I think is a really cool dynamic for this particular map or any map that doesn't have as many sea spaces.
Yeah.
So going to the next year, we see now that. Why don't you tell me what's happening with you and Russia in the West?
Yeah, so Russia is offering support into Armenia, and I am not responding. Like I'm kind of like, I would rather you just stay out of it and don't do anything. And Russia's like, no, I'm going to support you with Armenia into Alb. And I'm like, okay, I can't really say no, but I'm not a big fan of this idea because, he's right next to Constantinople. And if he had really wanted to, he could have also moved Sevastopol into Black Sea and just nabs 2 of my centers and nothing I can do about it. And then I am running away from Naj's armies in the middle with BRY into Riyadh because what else is a man to do? And I moved my fleet back into the Red Sea, which is intended primarily to vacate Jerusalem and still be a productive unit. Oman didn't take it very well, but I told him that I needed to be able to cut support from MCC if I wanted to get Alj back, and he accepted it grudgingly, which is good enough for me in the situation.
Yeah, sometimes you have to do things that your allies are only barely okay with, especially when, as in this case, your ally has been fighting fairly inefficiently against your joint enemy.
Yeah. He has not accomplished much.
Has he accomplished anything?
He took San here, I think, but he lost True, so it's no real net gain.
Now he does take something. He does take some ground here. So that is that's Najd is fighting well, but he's still outnumbered. He's fighting 2 enemies on 2 fronts against his one self in the middle,
and he kind of has a little parasite inside of him in the form of my army.
I like calling that a raider.
Yeah.
He's got that to worry about. In the east, what we're doing is we are still trying very hard to actually take some ground from Qing, and because Qing had just won some ground from us, we are actually successful because we get back Kabul, and I take Hyderabad in exchange. And it helps that Qing is distracted by trying to take over the last center that's in India itself, of Mumbai.
And then Oman is still supporting you for some reason. He could have saved True by tapping the Persian Gulf, but did not.
Well, no one asked him to save True. Someone asked him for support, and it's nice that he's very considerate.
True. My dog's in the background. I don't know if you can hear them.
Oh, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Okay, thank you.
So we see this I love the colors of this map. We see this very pretty outcome after the season's processed, where True has to retreat to one place, Najd has to retreat to AFI or ASI, and clearly chose AFI. So,
yep. The West gets more interesting. Russia supports me into Alb, which I take. I don't complain about it this time. Let me just quickly, here we are. And I tap MCC to try to make taking Riyadh back more difficult, or actually, I tap MCC to make sure he can't support himself into Alj, because I'm not holding Riyadh. That's not happening. I'm just walking into Qatar because it's free. It's free real estate. Meanwhile, Oman and Najd are still fighting. Oman is taking back True, which is kind of good for me and kind of bad for me because I'm weakening Naj anyways, and the goal is to get south before Oman can be like, oh, the Ottomans are going to be my enemy. I want to show up and kill him before he can say anything to me.
But very peaceful and gentle.
Yes, but thanks to Russia's assistance, this is me gaining a center this year. So I'm glad for that. Yay, Russia.
Yay, Russia. Russia's unwanted assistance ended up being exactly what you needed this time, after all.
Yep.
In the East, there's not too much happening. This is the problem that we ran into, which is that actually this whole area is basically kind of like a stalemate line for Russia, or for Qing versus Russia, me, and India.
Yeah.
And especially because we don't have most of India. So Qing has inadvertently found himself what is basically a naturally occurring stalemate line in this variant map.
Yeah, it's an oversight, I think, that Qing definitely was glad to have.
Oh, I would hope so.
Yep.
I'm happy because I get a build, I think.
Yes, you do. And Naj retreats and then disbands 2 units, but it colors your territory a nice purple.
I go to BAM to fix that.
Yep.
And
in the West, I hold Constantinople in place as well as Med. Med is staying there because when I fight Oman, I want to go to ATL. And until then, that's the only purpose of my fleet is to stand there. And if I want to convoy armies, that's what it's going to do. Jerusalem takes back Alj with help of Alb because we cut the support of MCC. Both Oman and I did that. And Qatar was unholdable, so I just moved to Kuwait in advance to make sure I can get there. Apart from that, not much else is happening. There's Oman decimating Naj from the south because Naj is focusing more on me at this point, which is surprising considering that he stabbed me and then got stabbed by Oman, and now he is turning his back on Oman, but I'm not going to complain too much about that.
It's funny how these things happen.
Yes, and I'm not telling Russia to pull arm back. I would very much like if Russia was to pull Armenia back from my border, but I'm not going to ask him to do that because he might not like that idea, that I don't like that. And I'm still
something about that.
I'm still not quite in the position to mess with Russia.
It's very diplomatic of you. Still no progress happening in the East, by the way.
Yep. Just pain.
Yeah, just pain, boredom.
Actually, you took DSH.
Oh yeah, this is where we hit the wall.
Yeah, this is where you just can't do anything else.
Cease to progress.
And Oman finally stopped assisting you to focus on the actual threat.
Which is why we started to have the problems advancing.
Yeah. Yep.
We really needed that contractor there.
Well. And then so this season, this was actually me being very accidentally treacherous to Naj. Because close to the deadline, I sent him a message that said, hey, Oman's going to be a bigger threat to us both in this position. You should move to San. I'll support you to San, and we can work together against Oman. And that was a genuine offer by me to work with him against Oman. But he accepted, and I forgot to change my orders. So they reflected the reality of, I'm going to kill you and take everything you have. Which was not good for me, because I didn't think that with Oman's extra unit, one of the game mechanics, he got an extra unit beyond what he had for centers. I did not want to have to fight him, because he would always have that edge up on me. He'd have more units, and unless I could persuade him, or someone else could persuade him to misuse some of his units and do some questionable things, the prospect of defeating Oman by myself was not a very good one. So as soon as this turn processes, I send an apology to Naj. I'm like, that was just me being making a mistake. If you want to keep working together, I'm happy to help you with that. And luckily, he did accept that offer, so we ended up working together in the next season.
That is good to hear. In the East, like I said, this is basically when we hit the wall. I mean, it's not a completely perfect stalemate line or something. And Qing takes another center from India, as India is also occupying a center from Qing, but it's the kind of back and forth that doesn't represent actual progress.
Yeah.
So I guess you. Naj had to retreat to Kuwait.
Yep, Naj had to downsize.
Oh man, Naj has 1 dot left.
Yeah, this was the effect of me accidentally stabbing him very hard. Was that he did not get much.
Wow. Yeah, I think he must have been pretty disheartened at this point.
Yes. So then right here is where Oman is like, all right, let's start cooperating. We'll DMZ common centers, and this is where I'm going. Oh yeah, you can have Riyadh, and we'll just work together. And that's not happening. I'm moving Med to ATL, and we're going on the warpath because there's no way I can allow Oman to be this big right next to me. It's just not happening.
It doesn't look that big, and he's there's a bunch of sea spaces between you. I'm sure that all those fleets of his won't be used against.
No, certainly not.
It's funny though. It looks like Oman had kind of the same idea as you. He supported himself into Red Sea here, and well,
he told me that he did not like my South Coast Cairo fleet build, which I can't blame him for not liking that. But it made it look like I hadn't just stabbed him at all, so I'll take it. Also, he chooses this moment to move MSC to OMN, which is very good because it means that he wants to go get involved in the East and away from me, which I like.
Yeah, I always appreciated having him getting involved in the East since Oman and I were friendly for some reason. I mean, there really wasn't an actually good reason for him to be helping me.
No.
But I appreciated the assistance with no thought for personal gain.
There's nothing in it for him. It's just like, yeah, it's for the balance of the game, whatever.
For the good of mankind.
Exactly.
And I'm sure he probably figured he had enough forces to defend himself against you while also involving himself on this other front.
We'll see if he's correct or not.
Yes, that we will. Qing is still defending himself really well against us and has enough leeway to launch a bit of an attack on India here again. But the stalemate sort of position goes both ways. He can't really advance against us any more than we can advance against him, which I think is why he's transforming that Mumbai unit into a fleet here. It's a good investment.
Yeah. And then in this season, before the season, I message you and I say, hey, do you want to get in on attacking Oman? I'll convert my unit in Alba to a fleet, and you can convert Isfahan to a fleet, and I'll support you into the Persian Gulf. And you were quite enthusiastic about that idea, as I recall.
Well, I wasn't getting any growth anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I figured, why not? This game is... I'll be amazed if I make it to the end game here. It's a matter of trying to survive and be a significant player in this game at all. Right now, I'm expecting to eventually be squashed between you, Russia, and Qing, or just you and Qing, or just Russia and Qing. Whatever combination of people, I'm expecting to get sort of folded between them and squished like a cockroach.
Yes. Also in the West, I'm being a good ally now to Naj, and I'm helping him get another center. Very nice. And my fleet that I put in ATL is serving its intended purpose in that now Oman has to move 2 units to deal with one of my units, which is pretty key to my whole thing of having less units than him.
Guerrilla warfare, well done.
Yes, I love that. That mechanic saved me, I think, that I could be annoying like that.
Yeah, if you couldn't move from Med to ATL, I think that would have been a lot. This would have been a lot more difficult for you because now he's somehow, despite having more units, you can feel how much he's on the defensive. Looking at this map, yeah. Everything he has is running in circles. He's trying to go. He's going up to Kuwait and down to San and down here to Goy. It's like all of his units' hair is on fire or something.
Don't know what's going on there, but it's funny from my perspective. I'm very happy about this.
It is pleasantly chaotic.
Yes.
And there in the east, we're still seeing nothing move. There's just a lot of support orders entered everywhere because every power in the east knows that we can all hold a line together if we just keep supporting to hold.
Just stay still.
Just stay still. No one will notice us.
And then this is where the West starts to get better because Naj can build a second army, and we can start to actually chip away at Oman at this point.
I'm glad it's getting better from your point of view.
It's getting better for me.
Yeah.
And for you. You're getting right onto the Persian Gulf.
Yes, I'm happy about that. And I'm thinking, hopefully I might actually get a center out of this instead of you walking into Isfahan or something. So I am ready to betray Oman, who has been nothing but nice to me. But what has he done for me lately, though?
Well, he moved the fleet to ASE.
Okay, but besides that,
not much, I guess. It's the only thing he's really done. Yeah,
exactly. No, Oman has mostly been helpful to me, but at this point, he could be most useful as a stockpile of centers for me to take, if I get to keep any of them.
And you can see I've gained some of Naj's trust because he's helping me in Tisan, and I am still being extremely annoying to Oman's attempts to kick me out of ATL.
Yes. Yeah, I can see that. And Oman is just having to devote at least one fleet to keeping you from advancing any further. Like, if you got into Indian Ocean from here, you're next to two of his centers, and you're very close to all of his other centers, basically.
Yeah.
And that's also why he's self-bouncing with San and BOS in ASM. Because he can't afford to vacate BOS, even though that would be better than bouncing here. He should just be supporting BOS into ASM, except for he has the problem that then you could walk ATL into BOS. So he's got some big problems with that one distracting fleet.
Yeah.
If things had gone the other way, if he'd been the one to move to ATL and then to Med, I mean, that things could have been very different because
I would have died.
Med is next to 4 of your center.
Yeah, I cannot have anyone in that zone. So my question for you is, why is India cutting Hyderabad? Was that?
Oh my God! India had his own program here. I think his own plan. I'm not sure if he thought that I was going to betray him in some way, or if I think maybe he wanted Hyderabad back. I just thought that was totally impractical.
Yeah.
Which it was, and the result is that he cut Xing also cut my support, so it didn't matter.
It didn't matter, it's just kind of funny.
It is kind of funny. But India, loses Gan and could potentially try to retake Mumbai from there, or could try to attack Gan again. So it's not a devastating loss or anything, but it is kind of a funny waste of move there.
Yeah.
But Kabul is completely secure, so India just does whatever he wants with it. We aren't even discussing that unit.
He could have walked into Mas if he wanted to.
Oh my gosh.
But he couldn't build, so what difference does it make?
Yeah. India is, I think, not holding a grudge at this point, at least, about the fact that I stabbed him earlier when we were supposed to be friendly.
Yeah.
But also not very interested in being very disciplined and holding a line against Qing, when he knows there's a very good chance that in the unlikely event that we defeated Qing, that he would just get gobbled up at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, there's a lot of arrows here.
Yeah, this is big season for changing things. This is Naj and I accidentally, it's kind of accidental, kind of like I'm not too concerned with him holding Riyadh. He loses Riyadh to Oman. I'm converting Al back into an army. I forget exactly why. I guess I just didn't think it would be very useful with you being Persian Gulf. I didn't want to be too antagonistic towards you. And it would be more useful as a bulwark against Russia if it was an army. Meanwhile, I'm doing a bunch of tactical sequences to try to take centers from Oman in the south. I figure he's going to support himself into Indian Ocean anyways, so there's no point in pulling that trick again. And I forget exactly what the tactical idea was behind all those moves in the southwestern corner of the map, but there was something there.
Yeah, I think you were doing a little bit of algebra here, trying to figure out what exactly you needed to do to advance as opposed to getting pushed back by Oman. And Oman was trying to do the same math, and you using ATL to cut support from boss, or to cut possible support from boss, was probably the best use you could make of that, considering you couldn't go anywhere else. I mean,
Yeah.
you were going to pull it back to med, so
I should have allowed him, if I had not done anything to ASM, I would have gotten into boss, funnily enough. And that would have been a gain of the center, so
yeah, that's true.
take what I can get. But I hold on to San, and that's what matters. Because if not, or if Oman has to disband even one unit, his position will start to collapse, I think, at this point.
I think you're right. It's pretty fragile, and he lost True to me as well.
Yeah.
Because I just walked in. At the same time, in the East, after that sort of unpredictable random thing that India did last season, where he moved Kabul to Hyderabad, I'm kind of ready to toss him off of the bus, toss him over the side of the train, and so I take Ching's support into Kabul while Ching self-bounces in Delhi and bounces India out of Mumbai, so this finishes India off completely.
Your Kronos taking the child and just tossing it back.
I don't need that anymore. That's just going to be in the way in the future.
Exactly. So now it does look like you guys are putting Russia firmly on the chopping block. This is the point where you start to do that.
Well, I realized that since I could not beat Ching based on everything that we had been trying so far, seemed actually physically impossible to drive Ching back, might as well join him.
I mean, it worked out somewhat. And also, you can see if you go back to the retreats phase,
Yes.
this is where it was important that Naj still trusted me, because he retreated to MCC instead of BRY to allow me to build still.
Yes, that was thoughtful, considering that the choice caused him to not be able to have the second army anymore.
Yeah, you can see how much he trusted me at this point, and you'll see if that trust was misplaced.
Well, I'm sure you'd never betray Najd. You two were like the two guys.
Muslim brothers.
Muslim brothers. Muslim brothers, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And gosh, God knows those two, you'd never be schismatic.
No, obviously not. At least not with true Muslims. I don't know about Persians.
I look forward to your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy these videos, like so many viewers who love the variant commentaries, I hope you'll show it with a like, and by joining the roughly half of my viewers who are subscribed. And I also support putting your hands together for the thoughtful and generous people whose names now appear on screen, our wonderful patrons and translators. A special hand for King of Prussia, who made this video with me. Remember that you too can join the Alligator Army by clicking the link to join my Patreon in the video description to gain access to a world of exclusive Diplomacy Podcast episodes and occasional videos that are only accessible through my Patreon, as well as early access to all YouTube content. Until next time, Florida Man out.